will be recorded. So a good way to start today would be to note the city staff who are present on this call and who worked very hard on the review of the SDCM. So first off, I'm Lauren Snyder. I am the city engineer for the city of Shawnee. Kevin Manning is the Deputy Public Works Director for Shawnee. Kevin was our subject matter expert for traffic devices. That includes street lighting and also our pavement markings. Reagan Long is on the call. She is our Development Engineering Manager. She is our subject matter expert for site design and private development. Bert Schnetgoke is present. He is our Senior Capital Improvement Project Engineer. He is our subject matter expert for facilities and parks. Ernie Longoria is our Senior Capital Improvement Project Engineer. He is our subject matter expert for stormwater. Cody Wilbers is our Capital Improvement Project Engineer and subject matter expert for streets. Cody was not with us for a lot of the review of the SDCM. He replaced Paul Lindstrom, who retired from the city in May. We're very glad to have Cody on our team now. Riley McMullen is our Assistant Capital Improvement Project Engineer and was very instrumental in facilitating the review of these documents, assisting me and also helping out with coordination with our design consultant. So the format for today's meeting will be broken down into 6 parts. First, I will provide an overview of the SDCM review process. Then I'll provide details on the location of the review copy of the SDCM for your use. I will detail the length of the formal comment period. Then I'll explain how comments can be submitted to the city. Then I will provide an overview of the changes to the SDCM and go into more depth on the notable changes of each division or subsection. We will end the meeting with a period of answering questions. Please note that for this virtual meeting, questions may be submitted via the chat box function in Zoom. We would ask that you hold your questions until after the presentation, as some of your questions may be answered by the material that is presented. In 2012, the city adopted an ordinance that allows the city engineer to adopt revisions to the Shawnee Design and Construction Manual through a public input process. The SDCM has not been revised since 2014. Review of the 2014 edition began a little before 2018. When I was hired as the city engineer in July 2018, I was asked to complete a total review of the current SDCM. To accomplish this task, meetings were held between community development and public works subject matter experts. The city also incorporated the help of Olson Associates for assistance in adopting additional Kansas City Metropolitan Chapter of the American Public Works Association standards. This large task of reviewing the close to 400 pages of the SDCM was begun with live meetings and then became a virtual review as we all learned a new way to work remotely during COVID-19. With the adoption of the 2020 edition of the SDCM, the city of Shawnee will have the goal of a 2-year review cycle for the SDCM going forward. The public review copy of the SDCM can be found at the web address shown on the slide, or you can simply go to the City of Shawnee website, scroll to the bottom of the page, and click on the link titled Design and Construction Manual. Tell us what you think. When you click on that link, the Design and Construction Manual page will open up. Let me demonstrate this for you quickly. When you go to the City of Shawnee website, you should have a page that looks similar to this. You scroll to the bottom of the page, and there's this design and construction manual, tell us what you think link. By clicking on that link, you'll find these drop-down boxes and instructions on how to submit comments. You hit the first drop-down box, you'll see that there's a link here, and that'll pull you up a complete PDF version of the design and construction manual. The other pull-down or drop-down menus will give you a brief overview of what each volume has revisions of. So if you go in there and click each one of those, you'll see that there's a drop-down menu. Today does formally begin our public input period for the SDCM. Along with your opportunity to comment and ask questions here today, you are also encouraged to review the documents in detail and submit comments over the next 4 weeks until September 26th. To submit comments after today's meeting, simply send your comments in an email to SDCMcomments@cityofshawnee.org. If you would like to have a conversation regarding the comment or question you have submitted, please be sure to include your phone number so that I or one of our subject matter experts can give you a call. So to begin running through the notable changes that have been made to the SDCM, I will begin with an overview. The SDCM is comprised of 5 volumes. Volume 1 is general requirements. Volume 2 is design criteria. Volume 3 is standard details. Volume 4 is construction specifications. Volume 5 is approved materials. Those of you that have worked with Shawnee in the past will note that we have added a volume this year for approved materials, Volume 5. Volume 1 has changed from what used to be called project requirements to what is now general requirements. Volume 1 consists of 5 divisions. 4 of them are new, and 1 of them is revised. Division 1000, General Provisions, is a new division that simply pulls out key terms and definitions that are used throughout the entire SDCM. Division 1100 used to include the terms and definitions that were moved to the new Division 1000. Another notable revision to this section are that the engineer now submits or may submit or shall submit an electronic copy of development plans for review. Division 1200, Capital Improvement Projects, is a new division that documents the standard forms of contract that are used on capital improvement projects. The division details the use of city-provided plan review checklists that we are using to improve overall project design quality. The section also includes some permits that are common requirements for capital improvement projects. Division 1300, Land Disturbance, is a new division which provides standards to regulate land disturbance and construction activities related to grading and to control erosion and sediment resulting from those activities. This division provides guidance on who needs a land disturbance permit, or LDP, what activities require an LDP, and how to acquire an LDP. Division 1400, Right-of-Way Administration, is a new division that provides the requirements that contractors working within the city right-of-way must meet. This division includes requirements for horizontal drilling and also provides the process for acquiring a right-of-way permit. Volume 2 of the SDCM has a new division added, land disturbance, and also has 3 new divisions added. Revisions were made to the remaining 4 sections, and we'll run through those. Section 2105, land disturbance, is a new section that defines the design criteria required for land disturbance permitting. This section adopts the Kansas City Metropolitan Chapter of the American Public Works Association, or KCAPWA, Design Criteria, Section 5100, KCAPWA Design Drawings, Division 3, and KCAPWA Division 2 Construction Manual Specifications, Section 2150, Erosion and Sediment Control. The applicability of all these KCAPWA design criteria are subject to specific amendments made by the SDCM. Section 2205, street design, has been revised with the following revisions that should be noted. Medians have been revised to be optional for minor arterials. Center turn lanes are now only needed for major collectors where they are proven to be needed by a traffic study. Green street design criteria have been added for 3 new ditch section streets, which are all a modification of our former rural ditch section roadway. The new street criteria are green industrial street, green collector, and green local street. The standard sidewalk width for the city has been increased to 5 feet wide. Pavement markings shall be designed per the manual on uniform traffic control devices. We will now allow designers to propose alternative pavement sections to our typical roadway sections based on site-specific conditions and design by a professional geotechnical engineer. Those designs are subject to review and approval by the city engineer prior to use. Maximum driveway widths for single-family homes with 3-car garages or 2-family homes with side-by-side garages are increased to 32 feet from what used to be 24. Project plan sheets for capital improvement projects are now changed to be 22 by 34 inches. Standard capital improvement project plan general notes have been added to this section, while private project notes remain unchanged. And finally, design table 2205-1 at the end of this section has been revised to reflect many of the changes which I just described. Section 2210, shared use path design, is a new section that changes what have been traditionally known as recreational trails or community paths to what is defined by AASHTO as a shared use path. AASHTO's guide for the development of bicycle facilities is adopted as shared use path design criteria. Section 2305, storm drainage, has been revised to amend sections of the KCAPWA design criteria that had previously been adopted. Specifically, section 5603 is modified to add or modify definitions and requirements for active stream zones and stream corridors. Release rates are modified for section 5608.4.c. Section 5608.5.f is modified with underground storage requirements. Section 2310, lot-to-lot drainage design, is a new design section that defines requirements for site design of lots outside of the city right-of-way. This new section includes specific design criteria, plan requirements, as-built requirements, and plot plan requirements. The first section of Division 2500 traffic devices is Section 2505, Street Lighting Design, and it's been modified to adopt the National Electric Code, NFPA 70, National Electric Safety Code, and ANSI IES RP 8-18, Design of Roadway Facility Lighting. The other notable revision to this section are LED equivalents and other requirements. Section 2510, Traffic Signal Design Criteria, underwent a general rewrite and reorganization that took it from an 11-page section down to 8. The section is simplified with the use of new figures, and nearly every subsection has some sort of minor revisions. The majority of these revisions are equipment callouts and specific component requirements that bring this section up to date with current technology. Volume 3 of the SDCM consists of 125 standard details. Each detail was reviewed for the 2020 SDCM edition, and there were details that were retired, added, and revised. "17 details were retired because better means and methods will be used, and many were retired because they duplicated information that was already presented by another detail. The details that have been retired include 3105-3, concrete ditch check and ditch section street, 3200A, typical sections arterial, 3200B, typical sections non-arterial, 3210-4, concrete inlay, 3226, residential drive approaches, 3200-13, typical section rural street, 3227-1, commercial entrance type 1, 3227-2, commercial entrance type 2, 3630-2, city project sign, stormwater utility projects, 3630-3, city project sign, stormwater projects, 3310-6, detention basin structure, principal spillway, 3310D, detention overflow structures, 3320, miscellaneous channel details, 3305-2, pipe encasement detail, 3305-3, pipe collar detail, 3211-3, end section toe wall, and 3311-4, plunge pool dissipator. As part of the SDCM review, there were details that were added to improve our standards and revisions to the SDCM, which were adopted that required new details. The following slides are new details that are a part of the 2020 SDCM edition. The first of the new standards is 3200-13, typical section green local. This is the first of 3 new ditch section streets. Prior to 2020, the city only had a rural ditch section, which is now retired, as noted earlier. This new section adds a shared use path on one side. The next new standard is 3200-14, typical section green collector. This is a ditch section collector section with a shared use path added on one side. Standard 3200-15, typical section green industrial, is our next section. This is a ditch section concrete industrial street with a shared use path added on one side. The first use of a street similar to this standard is currently nearing substantial completion at 43rd Street in K7. Standard 3620-4 is our new orange barrier fence detail. This fence will be used to define different projects' access limits. (3630-6) is a new end of road markers detail. This will be used at the termination of ends of streets which will be used for future development but aren't in yet. 3312-6 is a new construction or new connection to structure detail to help define how miscellaneous connections to stormwater structures shall be made. And finally, 3320-6 is a new stream corridor protection detail that helps us clarify stream corridor requirements. During the SDCM review for the 2020 edition, every standard detail was edited, if for nothing else than to change the revision date on the drawing. Given that we made revisions to all the standard drawings, it's a little difficult to cover them all here in detail today. So what I recommend is that we all take some time to review the 2020 SDCM and submit comments if you would discover revisions that you consider an issue. The next slides will be a list of some of the more notable revisions that were made. The first revision is part of standard 3100 erosion and sediment control. Straw bales are now replaced with biodegradable log slope interruptions or filter sock. The following notes have been added to many roadway cross sections. Type AAMR-3-3 compaction may be substituted with fly ash treated subgrade based on city engineer's review and approval of pavement design recommendation by professional geotechnical engineer. And the other concrete section may be substituted based on pavement section recommendations of professional geotechnical engineer with the review and approval of city engineer. So note 1 allows for fly ash to be substituted, and note 2 allows for concrete sections to be substituted for asphalt. Both of those are contingent on the city engineer's review and approval. These were added to partner with our street specification that allows for our design professionals and geotechnical engineers to suggest what might be possibly more efficient roadway sections for our streets. So we're kind of taking a little bit of a design build approach. Standard detail 3226-1 reflects the revision of residential driveways with 3-car garages being revised to 32 feet from what had been 24. Please note that all drawings that detail a city sidewalk have been revised to a standard sidewalk width of 5 feet. One such drawing is the standard drawing 3225, sidewalk details. Volume 4 consists of 4 divisions. Division 4100, site work, has been revised and includes a new seating and sodding section. Division 4200 includes 6 revised sections. All sections of divisions 4300, 4400, and 4500 have been revised. The first 3 sections of division 4600, incidental construction, were revised and a new structure demolition section has been added. Division 4100, site work, begins with section 4105, erosion and sediment control, which is a revision and replacement of what had been previously temporary erosion and sediment control. This section has been revised to adopt KC APWA Section 2150 Erosion and Sediment Control, except as specifically modified as part of the section. Division 4110, Grading and Site Preparation, replaces and revises the former Site Preparation section. This section has been revised to adopt KC APWA Section 2100, Grading and Site Preparation, as well as Section 2150, Erosion and Sediment Control. Division 4115, Subgrade, or rather, Section 4115, Subgrade Stabilization, replaces and revises the former Stabilized Subgrade section. This section has been revised to adopt KC APWA Section 2202, Subgrade Stabilization, except as modified. Section 4120, Seeding and Sodding, is a new section that replaces the two former sections of seed and sod by combining them into a single section. This section has been revised to adopt KC APWA Section 2400, Seeding and Sodding, except as specifically modified by the section. Division 4200, Streets, begins with Section 4205, Asphalt Pavement. Standards referenced by this section have been updated, and KC APWA Section 2200, Paving, has been added. Also of note is that recycled asphalt pavement, or RAP, may now be allowed in surface course asphalt. Section 4210, Concrete Pavement, has been modified to add references to KDOT Specification Section 154.5 for slip-form paving equipment and Section 502, Portland Cement Concrete Pavement. Section 4215, Concrete Pavers, only has minor edits that are mainly reference standard updates. Section 4220, Curb, also only has minor edits that were mainly reference standard updates. Section 4225, Sidewalks and Drive Approaches, adds the requirement that aggregates shall conform to KDOT Section 1100. Other than that, the section only has minor edits that are mainly reference standard updates. Section 4230, Shared Use Path, replaces and revises the former Recreational Trails section. Other than the name change, this section has only minor edits that are mainly reference standard updates. Division 4300, Storm Drainage, begins with Section 4305, Storm Sewer. Allowance is now specifically made in this section for the city engineer to allow alternative pipe materials on a case-by-case basis. Otherwise, the section only has minor edits that are mainly reference standard updates. Section 4310, Storm Structures, only has some minor edits that are mainly reference standard updates. Section 4315, Precast Reinforced Concrete Box Culverts, also had minor edits, and they're mainly reference standard updates. We spent a lot of time going through and checking reference standards in this review. Section 4320, channel lining, makes the specific requirement that welded wire fabric shall not be placed by hooking. There are only minor edits and reference standard updates otherwise. Division 4400, concrete, consists of section 4405, cast in place concrete. This section again makes the specific requirement that welded wire fabric shall not be placed by hooking. This section also redefines large placements of concrete as 150 cubic yards instead of 200. Division 4500, traffic devices, begins with section 4505, streetlights. This section includes new provisions for LED lighting. Other edits are minor and reference standard updates. Section 4510, traffic signals, provides minor updates to referenced specifications. It requires battery backup systems and makes minor changes to classification of detection systems so that radar is the preferred system. Division 4600, incidental construction, begins with section 4605, guardrail, which is updated to require submittal of shop drawings and manufacturer's data, and only has other minor edits that are mainly reference standard updates. Section 4610, handrail, has minor changes made to submittal requirements, and handrail installation and assembly sections are generalized to cover all material types. Section 4615, tree well, is revised to add requirements for shop drawings and manufacturer's data submittals. Definitions of filter fabric, drainage aggregate, concrete leveling pad, granular leveling pad, stone, and modular concrete units are added to the materials subsection. A modular concrete unit section is also added to the installation subsection. Section 4620, structure demolition, is a new section that has been added to provide specification for when structure demolition has been noted on project plans. Volume 5 is a new volume that has been added to the SDCM, so the approved materials lists are included. This volume consists of two new sections. Division 4310, stormwater proprietary units, includes the approved materials for use on public and private improvements. Division 5505, street lighting materials, includes the approved materials for use on public and private improvements. For both sections in Volume 5, materials not included must be submitted for review and approval by the city engineer prior to their installation. So with the completion of Volume 5, we have provided a high-level overview of the changes included in the 2020 SDCM edition. So you have the next 4 weeks until September 26th to focus in on the sections with revisions which I have noted. And I would encourage you to submit comments to SDCMcomments@cityofshawnee.org. If you would like to discuss a section with me, my number is 913-742-6229, and I would welcome a conversation. So with that, if you have questions or comments at this time, please enter them in the chat box, and we will do our best to answer them or take note of your comments and follow up with you before September 26th. So at this time, if you go into the chat box and enter your comments there, we will respond to those. Riley, just checking here, I don't see any comments here. Oh, here's one. Where can we access this video? This video will be added to the same location on the city's website after we conclude. The next question I have there is, how soon will new standards be implemented? The new standards will be implemented at the end of the 30-day formal comment period. So after September 26th. At that time, we will officially distribute the new SDCM and notify folks that it's ready. Another question, how will this affect project plans that are currently in the design phase? The answer to that is that designs that are under contract currently will remain the 2014 edition. Contracts that are begun after September 26th will be the new SDCM. I'll allow a couple more minutes here just in case someone's typing a really long comment, just to allow everyone a chance, or if anyone's having any issues with their connectivity. So if there are no other comments, this formally ends the recording of this presentation. Thank you all for attending, and please have a safe afternoon and evening.